Dazai is a depressed middle-aged man with no prospects in life, so he decides to give up and end it all on a chilly, rainy day. Dazai and his lover are seen strolling together without an umbrella until they reach a clearing with a turbulent river. This is precisely what Dazai had hoped for, since the rain had made the river strong enough to carry a person away, and right now, he wants to be that person. He and Sakin came here today because they are weary of this world and intend to end their lives by drowning in the river together. This way, they will be able to keep their promise to always be together. So before they leap in, they tie their arms together in solidarity. However, as we all know, there is only one true king of Isekai, and he isn't going to let his job be stolen. So despite them being in the middle of the forest, a truck appears out of nowhere to take them out before the river does, even if it doesn't make much sense. In the next moment, Dazai wakes up in a cathedral, and as he gets up, is greatly perplexed by everything he sees around him. He just assumes this must be the world people get sent to after they die. Just then, a voice calls out to him and explains to Dazai that he has been summoned here as the hero of this world. The woman's name is Annette, and she says she is tasked with guiding those who end up here. To prove that this is indeed another world, she directs him to look out the window, where a dragon and various other mythical creatures are seen roaming around in the world of Zerber. She tells Dazai that he is destined to become the hero of this world and restore the light, but he doesn't seem too pleased about it. He desired one thing, and that was to die alongside his lover Sakin. But instead of achieving this, he found himself in a fantasy adventure, and Sakin isn't even here with him. He feels like he has broken his promise to die with her. So Dazai gulps down an entire bottle of pills and patiently awaits the sweet embrace of death by overdose. Annette freaks out after seeing Dazai poison himself, so she immediately begins using magic to detoxify his body. As Dazai regains consciousness, he tells her to stop trying to save him because it's really inconvenient. She doesn't listen to him and asks Dazai to stand up so he can fulfill his mission as this world's savior. However, Dazai doesn't even want to save himself, much less a random world he just ended up in. He never asked to be here in the first place. This surprises Annette, so she asks if he happened to get hit by a truck. Dazai recalls a brief encounter with a truck, so Annette explains that she hired truck cunt to Isekai people here as part of the service she offers. The way it works is simple. The truck finds someone who is depressed or deeply unhappy with their life. After he has run over his target, they get sent to this world and get a second chance to live a happy life, and they usually end up feeling better. The fact that Dazai got run over means he must have been really unhappy with his life, so she doesn't see why he wouldn't be excited for a second chance. All he wanted was to spend his final moments with his lover, but she had to go and spoil it for him. Annette can't believe how upset Dazai is with her, but she isn't concerned since he will surely change his mind once he sees his impressive stats. However, when she opens the stat window, she is stunned to find that Dazai has incredibly low health and mana. Annette refuses to believe Dazai is so weak, so she checks to see if he has some kind of extraordinary ability to make up for his poor stats. But as she opens his ability window, she discovers that Dazai has no skills at all except for Depression level 5. Dazai decides to leave the cathedral since there's nothing left for him there, but Annette feels the need to atone for her mistake. She grabs Dazai's hand and apologizes for bringing him to this world since he wasn't meant to be here. Unfortunately, she lacks the power to send him back to Earth, but she can't let him go and live on his own either since he wouldn't survive 10 minutes with his current stat points. Dazai isn't surprised to learn that he's incredibly weak, as he has always been a failure no matter where he goes. Annette apologizes once more for her error and implores Dazai to remain in the cathedral for the time being since it's not safe for him to venture outside with his current stats. He would just end up getting snatched by a dragon or something, so she believes it's in his best interest to wait before doing anything dangerous. Dazai thanks her for worrying about him but says her concern isn't needed since he is just looking for a place to die. Hearing him say this leads Annette to think he might actually be different from all the others. When she first took this job, she was genuinely excited to guide the summoned heroes on their journeys, but since most of them were depressed lead players, they were so annoying to be around that she ended up hating her job. As he's about to walk out, Annette drops her stuff and chases after Dazai, pleading with him to at least pick a profession before he leaves. Dazai turns to her and says there's no need for that since he is a natural-born writer. With that, he closes the door behind himself and says goodbye to Annette. Once Dazai is gone, Annette falls to the floor and starts thinking about how Dazai is the exact kind of person she has been waiting for. Meanwhile, Dazai has made it to some plains outside and is trying to get directions from a sign, but he doesn't understand a single word on it. Just then, he hears a voice saying he has just spotted a landmark. He might just be euphoric from the pills, but he could swear that noise originated in his mind, and it genuinely aches since he suffers from migraines. He tries to make it stop, but celebratory music blares in his head as he levels up to 2. Just then, he hears a girl screaming for help nearby. Turning around, he sees the girl being attacked by a death tree. She spots Dazai and pleads for help, fearing she'll be killed by the tree if she doesn't escape soon. The tree's branches wrap around her tighter and tighter. Dazai watches, amused, and asks if he can write a story about it. The girl begs Dazai to save her. He tries but can't reach her and gives up. The tree then grabs Dazai and hangs him next to the girl. With no way out, Dazai introduces himself, acknowledging their grim fate. The girl blames Dazai for their predicament, as he couldn't prevent the death tree from capturing them. The tree will now use its suction ability to drain all the nutrients from their bodies. Dazai says he's glad to hear that, which horrifies the girl, wondering what kind of madman would want to die by being drained dry. As Dazai starts feeling weak, he looks like he's about to collapse. The girl panics, thinking Dazai has died, but moments later, the branch strangling Dazai withers away and the death tree is destroyed. Due to this, the girl and Dazai are liberated as the tree disintegrates, but Dazai is disheartened that he once again failed to perish. Despite his unintentional victory, Dazai levels up, leaving the girl bewildered and astonished because she believes Dazai deliberately caused the death tree to die by absorbing the poison into his body. She thanks Dazai for rescuing her while apologizing for calling him useless earlier, but he doesn't think he did anything remarkable. All he managed to do was fail to die, and he isn't pleased about it at all. The girl doesn't understand why Dazai is upset, but she sincerely wants to thank him for saving her life. Suddenly, she has an idea and invites Dazai to her home so she can show her gratitude properly. Dazai sees no issue with this, so when the girl extends her hand and asks what she should call him, he tells her she can call him Sensei. However, as he takes her hand, he is reminded of Sakshin, making him wonder if she might have ended up in this world as well. If that is the case, he might be able to find and reunite with his love. His motives may be questionable, but at least he's no longer actively trying to die. With that said, he has no idea where to start looking, so he heads back to Annette's cathedral. Annette is overjoyed that he decided to return to her so she can finally make her move. However, as the cat girl appears behind Sensei, Annette freezes in astonishment because she hadn't expected Sensei to find a woman so quickly after venturing outside for the first time. He mentions he has a question for Annette, so she readies herself, thinking he wants to inquire about her. Instead, Sensei says he is looking for a girl named Sakshin and was hoping Annette might have some information on that. Annette feels disheartened that Sensei is asking about another woman, but she doesn't have any useful clues about Sakshin's whereabouts. With no leads, Sensei is back to square one and follows the cat girl to her home. The girl encourages Sensei to stay positive since there's still time to find Sakshin. She suggests they take a break in the nearby town of Roth. Taking his hand, she leads him there. Annette, also present, disapproves of the hand-holding and slaps the girl's hand away. The girl yells at Annette for overreacting and questions why a clergy member like her is here. Annette reluctantly admits she's here to watch over Sensei, the vulnerable otherworlder she summoned. The girl realizes Sensei is from another world, explaining his strength when he saved her. Annette, however, doubts this since she knows Sensei's stats are low. The girl insists Sensei is strong, recalling how he defeated a death tree to save her. Annette worries this could lead to romance between Sensei and the girl. While they argue, Sensei finds a coffin, climbs inside, and says he's dizzy and needs a nap. He asks to be woken up when they reach the town, saying good night. Annette then ties a rope to the coffin and starts dragging it. As they continue walking, the girl grows tired of hauling the coffin and asks Sensei to get out. When he doesn't respond, she worries he might be dead. Annette checks his stats and confirms he's fine, just asleep. Annette and Catgirl are close to the castle, so Annette asks Catgirl to endure a bit longer to avoid waking Sensei. Inside the coffin, Sensei dreams peacefully about Sakshin, determined to find her no matter where she is. They arrive at the castle town of Roth and open the coffin to let Sensei out. Sensei, seeing the town, realizes he isn't in the same world. Annette suggests they go to the castle to see the king, but they leave the coffin in the road. At the castle, King Thomas and his daughter, Charlotte, are happy to meet them. The king offers them rest in the castle, but first, he wants to hear about Sensei's pleasant experiences. Sensei, who enjoyed the coffin ride, offers to teach the king what it feels like to sleep in a coffin. Out of context, it sounded like a threat, but Annette quickly changes the subject by complimenting Charlotte's beauty. The king mentions Charlotte is getting married soon and asks for advice about her suitors. Thomas calls for the men to be brought in, introducing the warrior Gomes and the roving minstrel of love Otto. Due to increased monster activity caused by the wrath of the demon lord, Thomas, now too old to handle the issue himself, decides that one of these two shall marry Charlotte and become the next king of Roth. However, Charlotte hasn't chosen a husband yet and disagrees with the idea. Thomas leaves the decision to a group of strangers he met just 10 minutes ago, wanting to determine who is more suitable. Sensei, finding it foolish to entrust such an important decision to strangers, objects to making the choice. The king is shocked by Sensei's statement. Sensei turns to leave while Annette and the catgirl try to apologize, explaining that Sensei is blunt because he's from another world. The king, unbothered, says it's fine and notes that Charlotte seems interested in him. That night, while everyone else sleeps, Sensei gazes out the window. Annette asks if he's having trouble sleeping. Sensei admits he never sleeps well. Annette, curious, asks about his world. She then notices a tail under Sensei's sheets and finds Catgirl sleeping on his thighs. Annette, annoyed, smacks Catgirl with a pillow, insisting that if anyone should sleep with Sensei, it should be her. As they argue, Sensei leaves the room because of the noise. When he steps into the hallway, he sees a beautiful light and decides to go outside to look at the lake. Coincidentally, Charlotte is there too. She invites him to watch the lake with her since it's a beautiful night. Sensei agrees, saying the sight is so beautiful, it makes him feel like drowning in the lake. Charlotte is shocked and asks if Sensei has enough problems to make him want to drown himself. From what Sensei has observed, Charlotte seems to have more troubles than he does. After a moment of silence, Charlotte confides that she can't decide between Gomes and Otto. Gomes is new to the castle and already the most reliable soldier, and her father trusts his strength. She feels she should choose him, but Otto is her childhood friend who would always play a song to cheer her up. She doesn't know whether to choose a husband she loves or one who would be the strongest for her father's sake. Sensei laughs a little and says Charlotte is kind for worrying about her father's opinion, unlike him, who's tried to end his life several times, always inconveniencing his family. He always lived life on his own terms and advises Charlotte to do the same, urging her to follow her true desires. The next day, King Thomas gathers everyone in the throne room. He announces that Charlotte has made her decision about who she will marry and wants everyone to witness it. Annette is sure Charlotte will choose Gones to benefit the kingdom, while Catgirl thinks Otto is the better match. Thomas then asks Charlotte to approach her chosen partner and speak her vows. To everyone's shock, Charlotte walks past Otto and Gomes grabs Sensei's hand and declares she wants to be with him. Annette collapses in disbelief. Charlotte explains that after her talk with Sensei, she realized what she truly wanted. Charlotte initially leaned towards Otto because he always sang to her when she was sad. However, she realized he sang to her all the time, even when she wasn't sad. Otto never said he loved her, so he probably just wanted to perform his newest song, and Charlotte happened to be available. Gomes was not an option because he smelled terrible. The king asked Charlotte to reconsider and choose a husband, which seemed odd after she declared her intentions to stay with Sensei. Charlotte snapped back at Thomas, saying it was foolish to make her marry someone without asking her opinion since she never wanted to get married in the first place. Thomas never considered her feelings, while Sensei genuinely cared about her thoughts and respected her choice. Sensei understood why Charlotte chose him, but before he could respond, Gomes removed his helmet. He revealed his true form as a servant of the Dark Lord, explaining he planned to take over the kingdom by becoming its king and eventually handing it over to the Dark Lord. Sensei asked Charlotte if she knew Gomes was a demon, but she didn't. She just mentioned his terrible smell. This meant Gomes revealed himself for no reason, but he wouldn't admit his mistake. With his cover blown, Gomes declared he would kill everyone. The powerful priestess who could help was still unconscious. Catgirl tried to wake her while Gomes was busy with the guards. The guards didn't last long, so Catgirl had to grab Annette and run to avoid being crushed by a pillar. Realizing Annette wouldn't wake up soon, Catgirl decided to fight Gomes herself. Otto, at level 89, offered to play a song for a buff, but it was just his new tune with no effects. Catgirl attacked Gomes, ducking and kicking him in the face, then hitting him with a cat punch, which barely affected him. Gomes sent her flying and vowed to put everything into his next attack to tear her apart. Sensei asks Gomes to kill him and Charlotte first. Gomes doubts he's serious, but Sensei insists it's Charlotte's wish now that she's free from her father. Sensei, ready for a good death, asks Gomes to do it. Gomes agrees, saying he'll kill the king and burn the city afterward. Sensei is indifferent, but Charlotte has second thoughts. As Gomes charges, she tells Sensei she wants to protect the kingdom. Sensei is pleased she knows her true desires and pushes her aside to face Gomes alone. Charlotte tries to stop him, but Annette wakes up and creates a barrier of light, protecting Sensei. Gomes breaks his horns trying to get through the shield, and Catgirl sends him flying into the lake. Both Catgirl and Annette are relieved to have survived. They thank each other and start getting along better. Charlotte has much to ponder, but her father suddenly approaches, begging for forgiveness for ignoring her feelings earlier. He admits he's unfit to rule and even to be her father. Sincerely asking for her forgiveness, Charlotte forgives him and expresses a desire to discuss the future of the kingdom and their relationship. Thomas is overjoyed to reconcile with Charlotte, and she's happy her father finally understands her. Meanwhile, Sensei is frustrated with Annette and Catgirl for ruining his perfect chance to get game over. Eventually, Thomas acknowledges his unfitness to rule and abdicates the throne to Charlotte, who does everything in her power to safeguard the kingdom. Otto continues making music, having nothing better to do. Annette and Catgirl drag Sensei's coffin to their next destination, discussing how bold it was for Charlotte to become queen at 16, but they believe it will work out. Sensei emerges from the coffin, stating that what's important is that Charlotte made the decision herself and stands by it, which he finds beautiful. Tama needs a break after dragging the rider's coffin for a long time. When she stops to eat, Sensei appears and asks for food. Annette gives him bread, but he wants tofu, which she doesn't know about. The author notes down tofu to find in the next town. As they head to Tama's hometown, the cleric estimates they'll arrive in a few days, but wants to visit a Zen temple first. People from other worlds enter through one of 4 temples before going to the Demon King's castle. Sensei's goal is to find Second, not to defeat the Demon King, so they need to visit all 4 temples for information, meaning they'll travel the entire world. Tama thinks the elf is crazy and worries for Sensei's safety. The cleric insists she likes Sensei because he gave her hope in her work. Tom asks if Second might be Sensei's girlfriend, and Annette admits she's on the journey to find out too. The cadril agrees to join her hometown and wonders if they can enter the temple since Annette quit her job. The elf reassures her that the Zen temple's head priestess, a friend, will let them in, and that she sends her familiar with a resignation letter. Tano points out that the familiar is the creature eating Sensei's head. Annette retrieves it, finds out it didn't deliver the letter, and throws it away in frustration. Sensei comforts the bat and names it Melos, making it happy. The man goes back to sleep while Annette tries to accept she left her job without warning. Melos suddenly panics, screams, and flies away. No one understands why until a strong wind reveals a dragon landing in front of them. The girls feel doomed until another girl commands Ryuka to calm down. She approaches the dragon, speaks strange words, and pets its snout, calming it. Annette and Tama are shocked and ask who she is, but she warns them of the dangers around, pointing to a coffin behind them. Sensei then shows up and asks if it's time to eat. The girls apologize, explaining he's eccentric and from another world. The Dragon Master, learning he's a foreigner, decides to kill him to destroy all inhabitants of other worlds. Realizing this, the Dragon Master decides to kill him because she aims to destroy all people from other worlds. She attacks with magic, and Annette conjures a shield that briefly holds but then breaks, causing destruction around them. Weakened, Annette and Tama stand up to protect Sensei. The enemy casts another spell, stunning them and showing the mark of the Demon King of Wrath. Despite Annette's despair, Sensei stands up and says the dragon's problem is with people from other worlds, not the locals. He steps in front of the girl and declares himself her opponent, ready to die if necessary. The girl thrusts her hand into his chest, killing him. As she leaves, she reveals her name is Waldelia and hopes the being from another world rests in peace. However, Sensei gets up, recognizing the deep hatred in Waldelia. He recalls a time he felt similarly, sending a threatening letter. Understanding her pain, he touches her face, surprising Waldelia, who sees him as a ghost. Sensei asks why she is sad, but Waldelia flees, calling Ruka to take her away on a dragon. She wonders about the man. Days later, in Donnerstag, the head priestess Isha hears a knock during a storm. She opens the door to find a familiar flying carpet with a man and 2 injured women, including Annette. The priestess warns that the man is the biggest problem and requests all healing resources. The next day after recovery, Sensei visits the market to taste a poison, surprising Tama. Sensei feels so well he feels worse, prompting Tama to knock the bottle from his hand. Annette thanks Isha for her help and asks about it being named Sakin, but Isha doesn't know him. She questions Annette's travels with a being from another world, relieved but concerned due to their dubious nature, especially those with powers to face the Demon King. Suddenly, a rapper named Katero offers to treat the elves with his mass-produced money. Isha rudely dismisses him, using him as an example of transferred beings' vanity and egocentricity. Annette explained that Sensei was different and Isha agreed, saying his face showed he could ruin Annette's life if she stayed with him. However, Sensei changed Annette's life positively, and she wouldn't be who she is now without him. Speaking of him, Sensei showed up asking for money to buy medicine. As she handed him some coins, Annette pointed out that Sensei wasn't destructive at all, even though she once thought he had ruined her. Isha wondered what gift Sensei had, assuming it couldn't be much since their group was easily defeated. Her friend explained that Sensei had no power, but still risked his life to save her and Tama from the Demon King of Wrath. Isha was shocked and wanted to know more because the Demon King of Wrath was defeated by another transfer 1 week ago. Meanwhile, in a dark castle, a man told a dragon it could bark all it wanted because its master wasn't coming back. Sitting on the Beastmaster's bloody throne, the man said he had already dealt with him. Near the castle, Waldelia assumed her father was inside. Upon hearing that the Demon King of Wrath had been defeated, Tama was also shocked, and Annette thought this would finally bring peace to Zerber. The Catwoman celebrated but wondered who the girl with the dragon was. Moreover, Sensei had arrived a week ago, and if the danger had already been eliminated, it didn't make sense to bring another transferred one. At that moment, Sensei tore up the papers he was writing on and lay on the ground, asking the girls to write on his tombstone. Here lies a writer who doesn't write. Tama asked what was going on, and Sensei explained that he had tried to translate his experiences in this new world into words but had failed, which was driving him to despair. Rubbing her hands, Annette asked how he described their first meeting, but froze when she learned he hadn't mentioned her at all. On the other hand, when he met Waldelia, he felt a wave of creativity and couldn't understand why he was stuck now. Annette invited the man for a walk around the city to relax a bit. She had been thinking about buying him some things, so she took him to the market and gave him armor the size of a giant to protect him from being stabbed. The armor was so big he couldn't walk, but he got a helmet too and was told not to go anywhere without it. Despite this, he stayed behind when they moved on. Isha, passing by, was startled by the armored man. He explained that he was looking for inspiration in the city. Annette then said that she would stay with Isha because she trusted people too easily, and Isha believed the new guy would harm her. Sensei said Annette could make her own decisions. During their discussion, a new person appeared announcing the arrival of Suzuki, a hero sent by the heavens. Suzuki declared that the demon king of wrath had been defeated and peace would reign again, thanks to the heroes. He proclaimed a new era of heroes. Sero then accused Annette of being violent towards him. Suzuki confronted Annette, asking how she would harm a hero who brought peace. He placed his hand on her head and told her to behave. Meanwhile, in the burning city of Ville, Sensei found inspiration to write his masterpiece. Suzuki used a special skill to turn Annette into a pet, causing changes in her body, like her eyes becoming darker. Kaoru mocks how easily pure-hearted people fall into this spell, just like Annette did. When Tama confronts Kaoru, Suzuki uses the same power on her, taming her too. Suzuki then brags about how powerful his skill is, claiming no one can escape it. Isha steps out from the crowd to challenge Suzuki, saying this isn't how she taught him to use his abilities. She declares that the city of Vale will not bow to his control. The people join Isha and rise up against Suzuki. In response, he sends his wolves to attack, threatening to destroy everything and rebuild the city to his liking since Vale refuses to submit. Isha calls him a bastard, but Suzuki sarcastically says he prefers to be called a hero, just like the elf did when they first met. To further provoke, he claims he'll turn Yusha's church into his personal castle. As the wolves spit fireballs, the city of Vale begins to burn. One victim, Sensei, is protected by her heavy armor. However, after dozens of strikes, the armor is broken, but the force from breaking it causes the helmet to fly off, hitting Tama and knocking her out. Sensei locks Tama in a barrel and leaves a note warning that there's a dangerous cat inside. Just then, he sees Isha struggling in a fight. Angry, the elf tells Sensei that this is how people from other worlds behave here. They use their powers for selfish reasons. Isha explains that Suzuki was different when he first arrived. He was a calm, timid boy. As Isha shares this story, Sensei starts writing it down, intrigued by this kind of character. Curious, Sensei asks where Suzuki went, and Misha says he headed to the church. However, she warns that Sensei doesn't have any special powers and won't stand a chance against Suzuki. But Sensei is determined to write his masterpiece, so Isha decides to go with him. When they reach the church, Sensei is amazed by its beauty and grandeur. Isha, however, is puzzled by how relaxed he is, knowing that the Otherworlder has superhuman abilities. She suggests they should have a plan before entering. Instead, Sensei drinks a vial of poison. Isha considers sneaking in through the back, but Sensei has already opened the front door. Inside, Sensei tells Suzuki that he's interested in his story and wants to write a novel about his experiences. Hearing this, Suzuki becomes even more arrogant, thrilled that an author wants to chronicle his heroic deeds in another world. However, Sensei points out that the story is actually about a man who gains more power than he deserves and ends up being consumed by his own greed. Feeling insulted, Suzuki vows revenge and commands his wolves to kill the intruders. Seeing that Sensei isn't going to stop the attack, Isha steps up and shoots beams of light to take down some of the wolves. But one of the wolves grabs her magic staff with its teeth, taking her out of the fight. With Isha sidelined, Suzuki orders the remaining wolves to shoot flames at Sensei. This time, Isha can't help. But when the fireballs get close, Sensei deflects them all using the helmet of the armor he's wearing, sending the flames back at the attackers and causing a huge explosion. It turns out that it wasn't actually Sensei but Melos who had been using the armor to reflect spells, just as Annette had mentioned the armor could do. After the flames die down, Sero begins to worry that these enemies are stronger than they thought. But Suzuki reminds him that he still has a secret weapon, a giant wolf. Without hesitation, Suzuki sends his top pet to bite Sensei, which it does, drawing blood from his shoulder. However, the poison in Sensei's blood kills the wolf instantly. While Isha heals Sensei, Sero panics and runs away. Isha demands that Suzuki surrender, but Suzuki isn't finished yet. He saved his biggest trick for last. He summons the possessed Annette as soon as he gives the order. Annette pulls out a dagger and charges at Isha, who never saw it coming. The priestess refuses to fight her friend and decides to retreat, but Sensei has a different plan. He steps in to lead the fight, telling Isha that Annette is stronger than she realizes. Suzuki laughs, thinking his control over her can't be broken, but Sensei believes the elf can still choose her own path, and it won't be Suzuki who decides it for her. With Annette's blade in her throat, Sensei insists that she is not trapped like a bird in a cage. Hearing this, the elf grabs the blade with her hand, struggling internally over whether to kill or spare the human. Losing patience, Suzuki tightens his control, causing Annette to feel intense pain from the conflict in her mind. She felt caged until Sensei spoke, giving her the courage to stab her own leg with the dagger. Afterwards, she collapses and Sensei catches her before she falls. She returns to normal, much to Yusha's relief. Sensei then asks the priestess to heal her friend, which she does, remembering when the human said Annette was not as weak as Yusha thought. Suzuki's arrogant facade drops, revealing his real fear as he watches his main power being undone right before his eyes. In a panic, he grabs the dagger from the ground and almost stabs himself, but Sensei stops him, explaining that he needs the boy alive to finish his story. Sensei then asks Suzuki about his story to continue his project, and this question takes the boy back to his past on Earth, where he was a weak child who couldn't stand up to bullies. Suzuki suffered from daily verbal and physical abuse, treated like a pet by older kids, much like a mistreated dog who could do nothing but endure the pain. He describes this harsh treatment as the source of a special power he has in Zauberberg, which lets him control others. Suzuki saw no escape from his misery except through ending his own life, but he lacked the courage to do so. His life was consumed by his own fear in the face of others' cruelty, and he felt utterly helpless. One day, Suzuki was hit by the truck that transported him to Zauberberg. In this new world, unlike on Earth where he was miserable, he became a hero with the responsibility of saving the land from the Demon King of Wrath. Over time, Suzuki adapted to his new surroundings, using his power to control wild wolves and make them his companions. However, despite being promised the role of a hero, the people of Zauberberg were just as cruel as the humans on Earth. The difference now was that Suzuki had the strength to fight back, and he was determined not to let this chance slip away. Despite everything, Suzuki doesn't think he's done anything wrong. He believes that no matter which world he lives in, he will always be a nobody without determination. After hearing Suzuki's story, Sensei is content to finish his novel about a weak man who wanted to be a hero in another world but couldn't even become a villain because of his own weakness. That's why Sensei titles the book No Longer Allowed in Another World. He thanks the kid for providing the necessary material for a book, but he can't call it a masterpiece. Because of this, Sensei tears out one of the pages and creates a magical circle. The circle's power flows backward, and Suzuki is sent back to where he came from. Annette, shocked by what she witnessed, checks Sensei's status and notices that he now has the gift of writing. Isha believes this might be a special ability that only works against people from other worlds, suggesting that the author was brought to Zauberberg specifically to fight these otherworldly humans who were supposed to be heroes in this magical world. Frustrated, Sensei collapses to the ground, utterly defeated after failing once again to write his masterpiece. He wonders if he will ever find someone who will truly inspire him, but he knows that day hasn't come yet. Watching the dramatic scene, Isha wonders who this man really is. Finally, despite sending the boy back to Earth, Sensei asks what happened to Suzuki. In Valis City, the wolves that were once controlled by Suzuki lost their invisible collars and were now free to leave. Similarly, Tama was no longer Suzuki's pet and emerged from a barrel. Meanwhile, Isha gives Sensei what he wanted most, a brand new coffin with flawless craftsmanship and golden details. After that, Yusha talks to Annette about how this person might be important in Zauberberg, and that his journey will definitely be hard and painful. Annette thinks the priestess will stop her from going with the man for this reason, just like she did before. But now, Yusha insists that her friend stay by Sensei's side to protect him from the dangers ahead. Before Sensei leaves, Isha asks him if Suzuki ended up like this because he gained more power than he should have, but even the author isn't sure if that's the main reason. Either way, Yusha worries that the young man will go back to a miserable life in his old world, but Sensei believes Suzuki won't repeat the same mistakes he's made before. It's up to him to decide if he'll create his masterpiece based on what he learned and went through in Zauberberg. Speaking of which, Suzuki has already returned and submitted his resume at the local market to get his normal life back. The interviewer asks why the young man dropped out of school, which brings back memories of Zauberberg that explain his absence. Seeing that Suzuki gets anxious with the question, the interviewer realizes it's a sensitive topic and decides to give him a chance, asking him to start his new job tomorrow. As he leaves the market, Suzuki feels the cold of the snow and hears the wind, extending his hands to watch the snowflakes melt on his skin. Meanwhile, in Sontig, a northeastern region of Zauberberg, the renowned Weiss Cathedral is frequented by members of the papal state, including Isha and Bishop Wolf. Bishop Wolf, a daring clergyman, drinks within the sanctuary, claiming that reality is for those who can't handle alcohol. He says the drink helps him tolerate the unpleasant dwarves he deals with daily, unlike his colleague who works with the demi in her jurisdiction. Suddenly, a godly servant with a demonic appearance reminds Wolf not to make prejudiced remarks in the papal state. This goblin, the first non-elf priest, became an archbishop through exemplary work, which doesn't please all church members. Feeling provoked, Wolf asks if the goblin wants to switch jurisdictions with him, as he always gets the toughest jobs. The goblin responds that clerics' tasks depend on their behavior, implying Wolf should correct his habits instead of blaming others. Cardinal Miller then asks everyone to sit and requests each member to report on their region. Interrupting the meeting, a clumsy cleric teleports into Weiss Cathedral, stumbling and falling. The cardinal introduces her as the new bishop of the Urson Temple and asks everyone to introduce themselves. Her name is Aria, an inexperienced cleric from Deanstark. She forgets to mention that Charlotte, the daughter of the King of Roth, has inherited the throne, earning a scolding from the cardinal. After this blunder, the goblin finally introduces himself as Elton, Archbishop of the Virton Temple in the Mitwick region, the holy land of lakes and water. He also warns that being late is strictly prohibited, putting a look of panic on the young elf's face. Next, Wolf introduces himself as the cleric of the Dritten Temple in the Samsteg region, the holy land of deserts and earth. Despite its distance from other regions, they are managing well. The cardinal mentions frequent conflicts among the dwarves, and Wolf highlights that he was almost assaulted while mediating a dispute. Lastly, Usher reports that she leads the Zweiden Temple in Donnerstag, the holy land of forests and wind. Recently, an otherworldly inhabitant rampaged and destroyed half of the city of Vale, and Yisha is mobilizing labor to repair the area. By coincidence, Miller convened this meeting to discuss the transferred individuals, as the Demon King of Wrath was defeated by a group of these summoned humans. Consequently, the Pope decided to seal the magic circles connecting the otherworld to Zauberberg to stop further summonings. Elton is joyous to see his people free from the Demon King, while Wolf is glad to be rid of the humans. However, Miller announces that the story is far from over, as the 7 individuals who defeated the Demon King of Wrath have claimed the demon's lands. Recently, the Pope received a declaration from the 7 stating they would use their power to transform Zauberberg into a utopia. This situation is a real blow to the Pope, who believed the transferred individuals were angels sent to save this world. These beings, once considered children by the papal authority, now see him as prey. In essence, a war has erupted between the transferred individuals and the World Church of Helen, as these true fallen angels begin to show their claws across the Free Kingdom. Similarly, Waldelia, the daughter of the Demon King of Wrath, cannot be ignored, possibly harboring a burning desire for revenge. In response, Miller announces that Zauberberg has entered a new era, and it is the Church's mission to overcome these challenges and maintain peace. Aria questions how they will confront such powerful beings, which prompts Isha to recall Sensei cutting through the sky with his power before a mighty transfer individual. She then mentions meeting a transfer individual in Vale who can return others to their original world with his gift. Upon hearing this, the Pope agrees with Isha, believing this angel could be Zauberberg's hope. As he sees his subjects kneeling, he asks Isha for more details about this human. Meanwhile, across the trenches, a woman hums a cheerful song that contrasts with the dark surroundings once dominated by a powerful demon. Nearby, a man asks if she is thinking about her beloved again, but she ignores him as he serves 2 glasses of wine. Knowing his question won't be answered, he informs her that their allies have departed for various lands, while the 2 of them stay to see what fate has in store for this world. In the meantime, what awaits the weary Annette and Tama is a much-needed respite in the city they just reached, before embarking once more toward Grun. As she revels in the chance to rest in a cozy bed, the cat learns that she has leveled up to 17 from hauling the coffin so frequently, making her ponder if this is truly worth celebrating. Observing the discussion, the child points out the direction of the town's inn and offers any useful information to assist the travelers, as they are unfamiliar with the area. They sit down with the boy to better understand their surroundings. First, he informs them about an organization called the Hero Introduction Service, also known as the Transferred Order Service, which assigns people to accompany groups lacking confidence and ensure a safe and comfortable journey. Incidentally, it was the boy himself who founded this service. Hearing this, Tinga recalls not having had positive experiences with transferred individuals, leading her to show a disapproving expression. The boy takes offense at the cat's disdain, insisting that the transferees are heroes sent to save this world. In fact, if the ladies hire this service, he can introduce them to a summoned hero immediately for just 40,000 Geniko. Tama is ready to decline the offer, but Annette interrupts, already handing the money to the boy. Tama reminds her that 40,000 Geniko doesn't come easy, but the elf considers a small price to pay for keeping Sensei safe. Simultaneously, the boy makes a face indicating he feels taken advantage of, asserting that a life is priceless, and the deceased man in the coffin would surely be smiling in heaven if he knew a hero was accompanying his two friends. Sensei opens the coffin, apologizing for being alive and nearly giving the boy a heart attack as he yells that the corpse spoke. Offended, Sensei insists he's not dead yet, though he wishes to be. Annette assures the boy Sensei is a hero, but the kid thinks heroes don't look like zombies. He grabs the 40,000 Geniko from the elf and runs off, introducing himself as Nier and promising to bring a real hero despite seeming like a scam. At night, the innkeeper, tired of their presence, asks if they're staying. Annette says they're waiting for someone, though Sensei knows the boy won't return. According to the author, the rascal has adult-like eyes. The rabbit woman identifies him as Nier, the notorious chatterbox of Zauberberg. Anna is furious at losing her 40,000 Geniko, while Sensei is curious about Nier's story. The rabbit woman explains Nier is an orphan who lives in town, deceiving visitors to survive. Although the innkeeper sometimes pities him, she knows he tricks people with his hero tale. According to her, if heroes truly existed, Nier wouldn't be a street kid. The boy never had a hero to save him. The reflection in the fine blade he carries is only his own. He's had no company on this lonely journey except for those who exploit his mistakes or steal his few possessions, which are vital for his survival. One regional bandit group preys on his vulnerability, counting the coins and notes he's gathered as a child thief. Nier nervously asks what they'll do with him, and one thug cruelly echoes the question, making him bluff about friends who won't let it slide if he disappears. The truth is, these so-called friends are the very ones who kidnapped him. The gang leader, flaunting a powerful crossbow, claims the boy has been making money using their names and says Nier will have the honor of bragging in the afterlife about being killed by a hero. With the weapon pointed at his head, Nier wonders if these are the heroes meant to save the world. Until now, he'd never encountered a transferred one, and this first experience turned his life upside down. Before the fatal shot, Sensei arrives and aims the transferred one's crossbow at another's knee, causing them to scream in pain. Another thug uses his divine analysis and realizes that Sensei is also from another world. However, noticing Sensei has only one life point and is poisoned, he dismisses him as a threat. The trio's leader then points his crossbow at Sensei, who suddenly begins to increase his HP massively. Sensei jokes about dying and asks the aggressor to shoot him in the heart. As the saying goes, the madman is only mad until he finds a madder one, and the trio eventually flees. Nier asks if Sensei is a hero, but Sensei doesn't see himself that way, saying adults are just betrayed young people, and Nier is still a child not ready to become an adult. Philosophizing, Sensei leaves the dump with Nier tied up. Nier asks if that's it, and Sensei's silence implies it is. The next day, the group prepares to head to Grun. Sensei is exhausted after spending the night chasing transferred ones. Annette is jealous, thinking he was sweet-talking another woman, especially when he says it was a pleasant night. Suddenly, Nier the Big Mouth shamelessly appears before those he robbed yesterday. He assures them he didn't lie as he promised to introduce them to a brave warrior, standing right in front of them. As Sensei walked, the urge to kick the bucket grew even stronger. The desire was so overwhelming that it frightened Nier, who desperately tried to alert their traveling companions that the writer was on his last legs. They got the message but continued acting as if nothing had happened since they knew the man well. In fact, Tama used Sensei's brave hero facade to make him pull the living's coffin. After some time, they arrived at Tama's homeland Grun. The cat girl was thrilled to be back and rushed ahead, promising to get everyone inside. However, instead of being greeted with the fireworks she had imagined, the local guards pointed their spears at the group upon seeing Tama and threw them all in jail. For some reason, Tama was separated from the rest, and it was assumed they were imprisoned because of that troublesome cat girl. Someone speculated she might have stolen from a noble, but Annette assured them that Tama was no thief. Meanwhile, Sensei slept using Milo's as a pillow until he woke up and asked the elf how people were executed in this world. The cleric refused to answer, knowing the man was fantasizing about the most beautiful ways to burn. Regardless, Nier knew they needed to escape, so he began to work. In seconds, he picked the lock, and Annette was quick to point out that this wasn't the skill of a brave hero. On the other hand, Sensei placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, and Nier expected a big compliment from the depressed author, but instead, he wanted to know why the loudmouth got involved in this. To the misfortune of some and the luck of others, the guards noticed the commotion in the cell and tied up the prisoners again. This time, Sensei questioned if there was going to be that cool execution, scaring one of the soldiers. They were quickly brought before King Siberian of Grun, where Minister Briard accused them of severe crimes with execution as the punishment. Siberian claimed these intruders had abducted Princess Matilda. Suddenly, Matilda herself stormed into the throne room, insisting she hadn't been kidnapped, but had traveled to different nations to hone her combat skills, meeting the accused along the way. She asked Annette if her story was true, and the elf, addressing Tama as Your Royal Highness, startled the cat girl but was eager to avoid the gallows. Matilda then pleaded with her father to release the innocent, but the king refused unless his daughter vowed to behave like a proper royal, as her late mother La Palma did. Matilda considered throwing a fit but decided to comply for the sake of her friends, agreeing to be more responsible. This marked the end of her adventurous escapades. With that, she left the throne room and the prisoners were set free. The group then went to eat after their time in prison, where Nier devoured the food eagerly, unused to such quality. Meanwhile, Sensei, having narrowly missed the guillotine, resorted to sedatives. Nier confessed he had no idea Tama was a noble of this land, while Annette reflected on her past rudeness to Catgirl. The waitress grew anxious when she overheard the travelers discussing Matilda. Curious, she asked if they knew her since her own name was Kojika, and she had once served as a lady-in-waiting at the palace. Nier explained that they had been traveling with Matilda until the king took her back to the castle. Sensei, assuming Kojika knew what had happened, asked her to share the story for his notes. Annette warned it was risky to delve into a princess's past, but Sensei didn't care. Tama was Tama, regardless of her status. Kojika agreed to share what she knew. Meanwhile, Matilda recalled how Annette and Nier reacted upon learning she was a princess, while Sensei remained indifferent. Her thoughts shifted to worry as she spotted a figure on a nearby rooftop. This figure unleashed a power that destroyed the throne room's roof. The king, arriving with his guards, found a man named Kaibara, a former hero known as the fallen angel of gluttony, sitting on his throne, lamenting his failure to tame a demi-woman, yet pleased by the abundance of their kind. Siberian recognized him as one of the 7 fallen angels known as Helson. The king sensed that this creature had no good intentions. With hesitation, he asked its purpose, and Kaibara declared that he had come to devour the entire nation. The Grun soldiers immediately prepared for battle, eager to show why they were known as warriors. But as they charged, the fallen angel of gluttony used his cursed mouth to ruthlessly consume the guards. Each bite fed the man, confirming his fears that demi-flesh was tough and unpleasant to eat. Despite his reputation for gluttony, Kaibara was picky, preferring the tender flesh of a young demi-woman. Furious, King Siberian ordered his men to stand down, stepping forward himself. As a level 56 warrior with the power of the divine beast's fist, Siberian vowed not to let the angel of gluttony leave alive. Kaibara, intrigued by the challenge of facing a warrior king, unleashed his dark powers. Yet the seasoned king skillfully dodged the attacks and countered with his thunder ability through his wildcat palm technique. Though Kaibara was resilient thanks to the golems he had devoured, Siberian prepared to unleash his ultimate technique by removing his bracelets and clenching his fists. Despite the newcomer's calm demeanor, Siberian charges at him, but is interrupted by Tama's arrival, calling for her father. Kaibara realizes he's up against a young Demi, and Tama recognizes the man from the rooftop. She steps forward to fight, but her father holds her back, insisting she can't replace Leon. Kojika had once mentioned Matilda's twin brother Leon, who was destined to inherit the throne. The people of Grun hoped for peace and prosperity under Leon and Matilda's rule, but 10 years ago, a storm claimed the lives of Prince Leon and Queen La Palma. The king became withdrawn, leaving Matilda helpless as she watched his grief. Seeking to ease his pain, Matilda's loyal maid, Kojika, took up Leon's mantle as the warrior heir. This only deepened the rift between father and daughter, and the fallout continues to this day. In the battle, Siberian belittles Matilda's powers, provoking her to attack recklessly. Kaibara retaliates with a monstrous bite, forcing Siberian to sacrifice part of his arm to protect his daughter. Kaibara taunts him, mocking his fatherly love and highlighting that Siberian can no longer use his ultimate technique without the arm he just lost. Tama, enraged, charges at Kaibara, but Briard quickly grabs the princess and escapes with her unconscious form. As they reach the city center, they encounter the travelers who had brought the A's and warn them that a transferred one is attacking Grun. Suddenly, an explosion shakes the city, drawing everyone's attention. Where the dust settles, King Siberian is seen chained and kneeling, with Kaibara declaring himself the new ruler. He promises not to be a tyrant but reveals his intention to consume the Demi, starting with the weakest. A commoner hurls a stone at Kaibara, who mercilessly devours the Demi, sparking terror among the citizens. Monsters surround the city, trapping the inhabitants. Sensei, meanwhile, writes in his notebook, realizing that the princess is the heroine of a tragic story. However, she must awaken and fight back. Matilda, still unconscious, dreams of advice from Kojika and wakes up in a friend's house, panicking about the events that transpired while she was out. Briard explains that the fallen angel has taken over the capital and captured her father. Fueled by fury, Matilda resists the minister's attempt to control her. Annette recalls the tragedy of Clolan Pass, where Tama's brother and mother were lost, a sorrow shared by the entire nation, demonstrating the people's love for their royalty. Matilda's loss would be disastrous for them, so the cleric urges her to stay out of it. Annette and Sensei possess a secret way to return the displaced to their origins, and Matilda, understanding the situation, lets her friends go. The group soon encounters two ogres guarding a passage. Sensei boldly steps forward, claiming they came to be eaten, inspired by the king's speech. His friends fear he's serious, while the ogres, caught off guard, are unsure how to respond. Soon, the trio is imprisoned again, and Annette angrily laments their lost freedom. Sensei admits that while death is inevitable, this isn't the time for it. He retrieves a crucial clip from Nier's hat, vital for their escape. Meanwhile, Minister Briard brings soup to Matilda only to find she has fled through the window. In the throne room, Cadbera ponders which demi to consume next, with a furious Siberian chained and bloodied beside him. The ogres return to report the strange human who wants to be eaten, but Tama interrupts, swiftly defeating the monsters. Siberian laments his daughter's choice, while the fallen angel of gluttony is thrilled to see his favorite meal before him once more. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and check out this video about a boy who gets stronger after being sent to another world to clap a demon girl.